The truth is certainly out there, and all you have to do is open the vault. From huge celebrities being accused of being communists to some shocking revelations about UFOs.
Here are the most insane FBI investigations.
Number 10. Louie Louie. One of the most bizarre documents found in the FBI vault, which is full of all kinds of documents, is the 119-page report of Louie Louie, a song made by Kingsmen in the 1960s. The band didn't commit any kind of crime or anything, but the FBI was suspicious that the song that they made, called Louie Louie, had subliminal, obscene lyrics. This was way before the obscene lyrics that we have today in hip-hop music, so if someone was going to start, they had to be discreet. The song became wildly popular among high school students who put their own twist to it in order to make things a little bit dirtier. State senators received complaints from teachers, and before you know it, the feds were investigating to see if the band members could be locked up for any kind of obscenity crimes. People were writing letters to the president that this was a serious matter and their children were being exposed to pure filth. While other organizations were learning about mind control via MKUltra, they were trying to see if this band had a trick up their sleeve. They slowed down the record, sped it up, rewinded it backwards, looked for any kind of hidden lyrics, but the main problem seemed to be their jumbling lyrics. No one could really understand, so imagination just went wild. If you go through the document on page 14, it's funny to see the lyrics the FBI believes that they're actually saying. Finally, it was concluded that there wasn't enough evidence to accuse them of any crime. Number 9. The Doors Investigation. The FBI was very concerned about the youth of America, and they can kind of tell things were starting to get a little bit more raunchy than before. People's freedom of speech had apparently crossed the line, and people were calling upon the FBI to put a stop to it. You might be familiar with Jim Morrison, the famous singer who lost his life in a mysterious fashion without an autopsy performed. The documents within the vault often discuss their disgusting lyrics. And it didn't just make Jim Morrison look any better that he was arrested for lewd conduct while performing. Since this was during the time of the Vietnam War, preaching about peace, love, and grass wasn't a great way to keep the feds off your back. The further you dig through these files, you realize their deep hatred for this music, calling it the most filthiest, most vulgar thing the human mind has ever conceived. This won't be the last investigation of the music industry by a long shot. We'll get to some more later. Number 8. Guy Hoddle Flying Saucers. We're sure you're all familiar with the Roswell incident that took place in 1947 when a supposed weather balloon attracted a lot of national attention and also federal attention. This document was released, giving us the story we've been wanting to hear. Guy Hoddle discloses in this document that the Air Force had recovered 3 flying saucers in New Mexico, which is, coincidentally, the state where you find Roswell. He described the discs as being 50 feet in diameter, but the more shocking part comes when he described what was inside. 3 bodies of humanoid creatures were discovered that were only 3 feet tall each. The bodies were equipped with a metallic cloth, possibly some type of body armor. But wait, hold on. You guys told us it was a weather balloon. What's all this about? The Air Force was able to find these saucers since the US had recently set up advanced radar technology in the area. How come this version of the story doesn't go too mainstream? Number 7. PETA Investigation. You might have heard of the group known as PETA, or the People for Ethical Treatment of Animals. But the FBI was taking this group quite seriously. They're known for exposing some truth about some dark conditions on farms, the fashion industry, and laboratories across the US and around the globe. But do you think FBI enjoys people exposing the truth? Most likely not. However, it began to get pretty serious when a researcher at GM Motors began receiving threatening phone calls and letters. They were apparently using live pigs to test out automobile crashes, and PETA said they'd prefer him to be in the car instead. On page 7 and on page 8, you can also read PETA's hate mail. There were also allegations that one of PETA's allies, ALF, called in fake bomb threats to various companies to try to put business to a halt. It's easy to see how the FBI was concerned, especially when people having such firm beliefs on something can do quite passionate things, sometimes to the point where it leads to violent threats. Later on in November of 1997, the FBI stated that PETA had intended to release anthrax and cause a huge incident. Documents of filed complaints about PETA reached some pretty high offices in Washington, D.C. Number 6. Marilyn Monroe Files. Could one of the most beautiful American actresses of all time be considered a possible communist by the FBI? It all got started when Marilyn's agent was requesting to get a visa to the USSR, which certainly wasn't an easy thing to do. This sparked an investigation, and there is still much mystery surrounded about her final days on Earth. Someone who had close ties to President Kennedy, the FBI felt as though she might have known a little bit too much. Maybe they didn't want her secrets to go too far? She had also been closely watched when she made a trip to Mexico and was found to collaborate with an American communist group there. They were known as the ACGM. During her stay there, she became infatuated with one of the leaders of the group. The FBI certainly understands how an influential actress such as herself can be, and how our media plays a huge role in gaining allegiance to the wrong side. You might have not really thought a conspiracy to murder Marilyn could have taken place until you sift through these files. It's all just speculation, of course. Number 5. Elvis. As we mentioned earlier, the FBI was becoming concerned with the youth of America becoming a bunch of hippies and with new waves of revolutionary music coming in. But what did the FBI think about Elvis? It turned out that Elvis and the FBI had a common enemy. Elvis claims he didn't think the change of music style here in the US was productive for Americans, and they should be a little bit more clean-cut like himself. The FBI says good things about Elvis for the most part and his support for the police. Elvis also made a trip to the FBI headquarters, and he was disappointed when he didn't get the chance to meet J. Edgar Hoover. Elvis wanted to become an agent in the war on drugs, but that didn't mean everyone in the FBI trusted him. There was also a letter sent to J. Edgar Hoover to watch out for Elvis due to his unbelievable ability to track women. This is found on page 35. Some even believed he had wild orgies with the mobs of underage girls that were lined up outside of his hotel. Is it possible Elvis just wanted to get rid of some competition and pretended to be cool with the cops? Who knows? There is a ton of info on him by the FBI, so it'd take a while to sift through. Some believe that due to the FBI files, Elvis could still be out there on Witness Protection Program, living in a classified location. Number 4. Harlan David Sanders, aka the Colonel. How can the notorious Colonel Sanders, the creator of KFC, possibly be in the FBI's vault? Were the FBI getting a little bit suspicious about what he puts in his secret formula? Well, in 1975, Colonel Sanders received a suspicious letter that threatened his life, and they tried to extort money from him. In this time of need, it doesn't seem as though they found out who the mysterious person was. The letter was thoroughly investigated. Colonel Sanders certainly appreciated their effort. He also wrote to Mr. Hoover a letter that you can see on this page, page 5, inviting him to come down to Kentucky. He's going to show those young people what celebrating is all about. We imagine it must have been pretty legendary to get to meet the Colonel for dinner in person. It seemed like an offer Edgar wasn't really willing to turn down. Number 3. Lucille Ball. While she certainly had glowing red hair, the FBI thought she might have also been affiliated with red in a different way. Another one of our famous celebrities being accused of being a communist, Lucille Ball, had an extensive record by the FBI with 156 pages on her political affiliation. So what does that mean? Ricky Ricardo, a supporter of Castro, or what? Was her famous show just communist propaganda the entire time? They seriously had to get to the bottom of this. Back in 1936, she signed a sponsorship with a known communist leader, Emil Fried. She was questioned by the Committee of Un-American Activities. She claims that the only reason she had supported the Communist Party was because her grandfather was communist, and it was done without her consent. After really beginning to read through some of these files, you get an idea how paranoid the FBI was about the Soviets infiltrating our media and music. Number 2. Majestic 12. Have aliens already made contact with humans and created treaties in order for us to be useful to each other? Several of the first few pages in this investigation are labeled as bogus with a capital B, but at least shows you that someone had to have been creative, right? Or was it actually the truth and they just said it was bogus? Some people on the inside said that the papers were based on factual events, but they were sworn to secrecy. It's believed that after Roswell, Harry Truman began a group of special investigators to research specifically all the flying saucer crashes that were taking place. In 1988, the Air Force warned the FBI about the Freedom of Information Act, and they were worried about it causing some drama once it got released. The documents were so unusual that the FBI still wanted to see if there was really a Majestic 12 team after all. Americanized findings have neither confirmed or denied the existence of Majestic 12. So this one is still a mystery. And number 1, John Lennon. Among some of the most famous musicians of all time, John Lennon certainly did not have the best reputation among the FBI, and coincidentally, he also lost his life unexpectedly. If you're really a big fan of the Beatles and want to know about this, there's over 500 pages about this guy, and it's one of the most extensive records ever. The FBI was almost sure this guy was a Ruski communist, sent to totally bring destruction to the youth of America. One of the things that prompted the FBI was his raunchy record cover that displayed him and his mistress, Yoko Ono, completely nude. They had apparently received a ton of mail from the congressmen and other powerful individuals who want to put a stop to, quote, vulgar display of garbage. It wasn't just the cover album that triggered the FBI. There was a huge investigation as to which anti-war and protest groups John was affiliated with, and any immigration tactics he might use in order to stay in the US. Not only that, he was considered to be an extremist, and they were worried that he would disrupt the upcoming Republican convention with a concert in the same city in 1972. Richard Nixon didn't really like that too much. Much of the files are heavily redacted, and it's clear that they were spying on him up until the day that he died.